Hey everyone, welcome to a bite-sized episode of Unemployed AF Dad. Probably weren't expecting an episode this week, but happy holidays to y'all.
Surprise.
We just want to do this quick little episode because the holidays, as we said, are here. And as Ross says, the holiday season is upon us. Little Friends quote for you. But we just wanted to do a little episode about tips for taking a break from alcohol during not just the holiday season. This can apply to any time of the year, but especially in the holidays because a lot of people's, traditions do involve alcohol and drinking. And I know dry January is a huge thing, and that's great. But I think a lot of the reason people do dry January is to kind of detox from
Oh, yeah.
all the junk they put in their body, not just alcohol, but all the foods, the desserts, the all the candy, everything. And we're just kind of encouraging people to maybe start before that. You know, the holidays are stressful enough as it is.
Very much so.
You have a lot of presents to buy, overspending, maybe spending time with family members that you don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time with. And a lot of people drink to kind of cope with that stress. But as we've talked about, it's not the best way to cope with stress.
And you're kind of left feeling more depleted than you are, filled up.
Yeah, there's a Brene Brown quote that we really like. Again, it kind of goes to coping with stress by drinking alcohol and numbing yourself. And she says, there's no such thing as selective emotional numbing. When we numb the dark, we numb the light. So we're not enjoying ourselves either, right? Like you're kind of trying to drown out that discontent, the reason that you're drinking, and all the stress. But in the same respect, you're also numbing yourself to all the happiness you can feel. And isn't that what the holidays are about? Being happy, celebrating with loved ones. And why would you want to kind of numb that away and not enjoy it fully?
Well, if you have poor emotional coping strategies, that's why you'd want to numb it away. But it is kind of an invitation, I think, when you stop drinking to kind of reevaluate that kind of process too. Like, how are you able to cope with these situations? And if you can't and you need alcohol to do that, then I think there's some deeper work to do there, not just kind of mask it or band-aid it with having a drink.
Right. But again, our first tip really is let's start this thing now. Why
Yeah.
wait until January 1st? I think a lot of people do get caught up in like a new year, new me, but as we know, that's silly. You can change anytime. Doesn't matter what the calendar says. Now is just as good a time as any to start this alcohol-free journey if you choose to.
It's kind of more empowering too to know that, like, oh, I don't have to wait until January 1st of 2023 to make this new change.
Right.
Like, I can wake up tomorrow or I can do it today. I can make that decision today. That's so empowering.
And you might find that this is one of the best holidays you've ever had because you weren't drinking.
Yep. Or one of the most difficult.
Another really, I know we're kind of mentioning this quite a bit, but again, This Naked Mind, Control Alcohol, book by Annie Grace. This is a really, really good read. Even if you are not ready to take a break from alcohol, I think it's good just to kind of challenge your current way of thinking and just like open the door to other ways to live, and not have to consume alcohol. And again, it does kind of slowly just change your subconscious to that thing. We need a drink. I have to have a drink to get through this, whatever it is. Or I'm going to a holiday party and everybody's going to be drinking and I need to drink. And if you're not drinking, it's easy to be like, oh my, I don't get to drink. This is a bummer. I'm not going to enjoy myself. But it's just slowly changing your mindset to I choose not to drink. And there's so much joy that comes with that. Not even like the next day you're going to wake up and feel better than the others who drink. But again, you're present, you're in the moment, you're feeling everything. You can be yourself. You don't have to worry about saying something you don't mean or acting kind of crazy and next day regretting that. Again, I think you'll find maybe that this holiday season, if you choose not to drink, might be one of the best ones you've had.
Very much so. And if you can find somebody to do that process
That's
with,
a big part of it, yes.
yeah, then I feel like it makes it a lot easier. I went to a happy hour not that long ago. I think I told you about that. And I had another coworker, and she was alcohol free. Actually, two other coworkers, and the three of us sat there, and it was like a huge relief to just know that, you know, you're out at a bar with other people and you're not the only one not drinking, but there's somebody there with you that's kind of sharing in this same sober experience that you are, while everybody else is partaking. So, and I know also too, this journey that we're on, it's been so much easier, you know, just having you.
Yeah, it's nice to surround yourself with like-minded people, right? You know, people who are going to support you, even if they're not choosing to completely give up alcohol with you during this journey. That's okay, as long as they're supporting you. You know, obviously you don't want to be around people who are questioning why you're doing it or kind of razzing you for it, which again, we think is kind of a defense mechanism for them. They have their own, you know, insecurities about their relationship with alcohol, and that's just the way they react when someone kind of, you know, questions the norm for them. But again, just people that are kind of like-minded, who are going to support you in your corner. Yeah, like you and I mean, it's definitely been way easier to do this together. Like just the other night we were out, you know, a holiday get together, and lots of drinking around us, and we both got Athletic Brewing Company, another plug, NA beers. And that opened up some conversation with some people like, oh, what are you drinking? And then it kind of led to why we're not drinking. And then we started talking about the podcast. So you just never know.
And we started talking about marriage and life. And it
but
was
again,
a really cool segue.
It was. And it was easier because both of us were doing it. You know,
Yeah.
if I had just been there by myself, I mean, at this point in our journey, like 8 months into it, it would have been no problem for me. But early on, just to be the single person there not drinking would have made you feel uncomfortable, which kind of, again, leads us into the whole placebo effect. We talked about this in the very first episode with a wedding that we went to, and just getting a club soda and kind of people being fooled into thinking that we were just drinking like they were. But some people are going to need that placebo effect, whether it's a, you know, club soda or an NA beer or a mocktail or whatever it is.
You're definitely one that needed that in the beginning. Maybe not so much now whenever we go out, because I think you're a little more confident, but definitely in the very beginning, I think it really, really helped kind of just bridge that time of feeling a little bit more kind of in the crowd.
Right. And it's also helpful when you're not quite ready to have that conversation with people. Because you know, if you are in a setting where a lot of people are drinking and you're not, it's going to, the people are going to say, what, you know, what's wrong? Why are you not drinking? Or try to maybe push a drink on you. And if you're not ready to have that conversation, especially like you mentioned, if you are very early in your journey, it might be easier just to have that, you know, look-alike. Because, you know,
or if you're not ready to share why you're not drinking,
Sure.
you know, maybe there were things that led up to that you're just like, yeah, I'm trying to sort out my own life. I'm trying to figure things out. Maybe you just you don't want to dive in and have that conversation. That's okay too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that leads to another point, that it's still okay to go out and do the things that you like to do. You know, it doesn't mean you don't have to go to a holiday party where there's going to be drinking, or a happy hour with your coworkers, or a bar, or whatever the case may be. But that being said, I know for me personally, like, I didn't really want to do that scene the first couple, I don't know, weeks, maybe month that I stopped drinking, because it reminds you of
what
drinking.
You're giving up, your past, kind of like a past life, right? Or the you that you're kind of trying to uncocoon in a way, and then kind of move on to, you know, maybe Adam 2.0, or, you know, whatever it is.
Right.
And that's hard.
It is hard. If you had like a favorite bar that you would go to, I don't know that it's maybe necessarily a great idea, you know, first couple weeks that you stop drinking, to go back to that bar. Because again, you know, it's the familiarity of it, and it's going to bring back those memories of you maybe having a good time drinking with some friends, and
you'll get all nostalgic, and
it could create some challenges, that's for sure. But I've also found that, you know, again, later on into my journey, that going to those bars has been easier and easier every time, especially when, you know, most of the people that you're associating with at that point already know
Yeah.
that you're not drinking,
Yeah.
and even will like buy you a non-alcoholic beer, and that's, that's their way of encouraging you and showing support, and that's great. But
Yeah.
it's with anything in life, it gets easier and easier as time goes.
Yeah.
And maybe when you first started, you couldn't imagine yourself in a bar. Maybe a couple months later, you have no issue going, and there's not that temptation there, and for sure that you have a plan going in, and you're not going to stray from that plan, and it's a piece of cake.
But you have that, you have that momentum behind you. You have that time behind you. And like you said, you've kind of already, you've kind of rehearsed it already. Your friends know possibly that you're already not drinking. And so it just makes things a little bit easier.
It does.
Those first months or a month is probably the most difficult.
It is. But, again, a bar could be a trigger. But also, I know for us, country music, as silly as that sounds, was a trigger. Simply because
every song is about drinking.
It's not only that it's about drinking, but again, you associate your drinking with country songs. I know for us, during the summer, we would, blare some country music and have a couple drinks, and that was like our kind of hangout time. And so again, you have that association with country songs, and it's crazy. But you listen to a song about drinking, and then you kind of like, oh, a drink sounds pretty good. So like
it's quite sneaky.
Things like that, or TV shows,
movies,
anything that kind of
books, anything that
reminds you of drinking, maybe best to avoid that content, and maybe fill your mind with other things that are kind of more geared towards what you are going through,
or like the trajectory that you're trying to get to. Right? Like if you're trying to maybe level up in a different area, then point your focus towards that.
There was a podcast that you sent me real early on after we stopped drinking that was super, super beneficial, and I recommend everybody check it out. You want to talk about that one?
Is it the Andy Ramage one?
Yes.
Yeah. It was on Live Better, Feel More.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on there, and he's been dry for
6 years at least.
Well, yeah.
At that point, that was a 2 or 3 year old episode. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it gives a ton of tips and strategies that you can use. And two, like, he does such a really awesome job of making you feel like you're not alone in the process, and that like your decision to do that is so empowering. Like he has this great ability to like make you feel like, which you should feel empowered. You're making a huge decision to change your life and do something that's gonna make you kind of level up, and he definitely does that.
What I love is his message is simple. He's like, I'm not telling you to stop drinking. He's like, I'm telling you, just take a break.
Yeah.
And see what happens. And the point being, once you take a break, you'll see all these wonderful things that are a result of you not drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about it before, but it's everything from your health to your, relationships, your sleep quality, your energy, your motivation, your drive.
Yeah. Mental focus.
I know for me, there's no way I would have been able to start, preparing for this podcast and doing all the things that come with this, like if I was still drinking. I just don't think I'd have the motivation or the ambition.
Well, it's because there's that up and down pattern, right? Like you drink, you don't sleep well, then you got brain fog, you don't feel good the next day, and then you're trying to kind of catch up, and you never truly string together several days in a row where you feel well.
Mm-hmm.
And so then of course you can't do anything because you never truly feel well. It's like having a dull headache every single day of your life.
You just get used to that, and you think that's the new norm. And then when you take a break, as Andy Ramage says in his podcast, he's like, I never knew that you could feel so good.
Yeah.
He's like, I just thought that was the way you normally felt.
Right? Yeah. He's really awesome. I encourage you. I want to say his website is just andyramage.com, because he has a ton of content on there. So definitely check that out.
He talks about something else too that we definitely agree with, and we've talked about before, but that's just kind of writing down your goals.
Yeah, writing things down kind of, and I think we talked about that on a previous podcast too, of just getting your thoughts out into like on paper, because sometimes like your goals or things that you want or your intentions just kind of like bounce around in your head sometimes. I don't know if everybody does, but that happens to me a lot. But getting them down on paper, it kind of solidifies it.
It makes it real.
It makes it real. And it kind of is like a small strategy to hold yourself accountable, because you can look back and be like, oh man, I wrote that down and I wanted to do that and I haven't accomplished it. So like, let's get on it. Let's do it now. So writing things down, I definitely encourage everybody to do that. I think we also talked about like doing a breakup
letter to alcohol.
Yeah. That's a really cool idea of, just kind of being able to say like, like, and even if it's not like a final farewell, but just a, like, hey, it might be a while before we see each other.
These are the things that I don't like about you.
Yeah, these are the things that, aren't serving me right now. Maybe in the future we'll see where this goes, but right now, yeah, we got to take a break.
Yeah.
We were on a break.
Another friend's quote. And then, with giving up alcohol, you're definitely going to have some more time on your hands. So I encourage you to find a new hobby, a new routine. Again, for me, it was this podcast, working on this, been working on some other stuff, getting into the gym more, walking more. I think
there's so many hobbies to do.
There is, but again, like, I didn't realize how much more time I would have, not just because I was spending all that time drinking, but again, the aftermath of drinking. Yes. It takes up a lot of wasted weekends, and your weekends are so precious. Why would you want to waste them? And instead of wasting them, not feeling good, just lounging around all day, you can be accomplishing so much. It's amazing what you can do in a day when you get up, 6:30 in the morning and are motivated and ready to go. And sometimes I look, I'm like, wow, I feel like I've done so much today, and it's only like 11:30. I would still probably be lounging around for another few hours if I had been out drinking. So it gives you the gift of time.
Yeah. It definitely gives you your life back, which is so beautiful and so wonderful, because we only get so many hours, so many days on this planet. So why waste them?
I think the last, really good tip I have, at least, is just be patient with yourself. Love yourself. You probably will drink again at some point, and that's okay. You don't have to go cold turkey like we did. Some people, that approach may work, and some people it won't. But don't feel like you're a failure because you wrote out a goal and you didn't accomplish it. Because guess what? Start tomorrow, and that's a new chapter. You can hit that goal the next time, but just don't beat yourself up. There's a story, and I've heard it a few different times, so I think it's from a children's book, but I'm not really sure. But basically, it's about this little boy and a horse, and they're in a forest, and the boy's like, I'm lost. I can't see my way through. I don't know how to get out of here. And the horse says, well, do you see your next step? And the boy says, yes, I do. And the horse says, well, then just take that next step. And the point being that we focused on the long term, and that can get really overwhelming and frustrating because nobody can see that far ahead. Nobody knows what is going to happen in a month or 6 months. But if we just focus on today, and it's so cliche to say, but it's absolutely true.
So true.
We focus on today and our next step, obviously that leads to the end result. And the journey is where you learn and become the person that you are.
That's the juiciness.
It is. And that's the reward at the end. Like, you look back on that journey and every single step. If you just, transform from one place to the next without the journey, then it
would be like a shock to your system.
Well, it wouldn't make it worth it, would it? Like,
I guess you wouldn't have the sense of accomplishment.
Right.
You wouldn't have that admiration for yourself for working hard and doing something that was difficult and then like sticking through it and accomplishing it. So yeah.
What's the 5 principles of Reiki?
Oh God, put me on the spot. Like, it was like just for today.
Just for today, right?
Just for today. No.
Again, it sounds so like, I hate it when you hear a sports interview and they're like, oh, what's the key to this season? Just take it a game at a time. But it is true. Like, you can't focus on the long term because it distracts you. It overwhelms you. And if you just focus on today and what your next step is, you'll eventually get there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. I know that you had said that, not everybody has to stop like cold turkey. But I think it definitely goes to say that, like, I feel like we didn't just stop cold turkey. I feel like there were times and seasons where we did drink and we didn't drink, and it's always been like this very like ebb and flow back and forth. So maybe some people can relate to that, of like that, like, oh, I didn't drink for 8 months at this time, or I didn't drink for 10 months at this time, or whatever it is. I mean, it's going to be possibly a period of your life where you don't drink, but it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Yeah, I think with Andy Ramage, going back to that podcast, I believe his book was like the 28-day no beer challenge or something like
30
that. Or 30 day.
No. How
It
was a
like
clever title.
It was like a month, basically.
Yeah.
But
I think his book was called No Beer for a Year. Or
was it?
Something like that.
But I think in his program they do different, like like a 28-day challenge, a 60-day, a 90-day, whatever.
He encourages people 90 days because he's like, you get the full benefit of it for 90 days. But I mean, try it for 2 weeks. See how you feel for 2 weeks.
That's his whole thing. No matter what the time is, you will notice some of the changes immediately. Yeah. And he always says, like, again, I don't know what the future holds. He's like, I'm not saying I'll never drink again, but he's like, why would I? Mm-hmm. He's like, look at how it's changed my life and made me the person that I am today. Why would I want to go back?
Yeah.
So I think that's what the mentality I'm kind of in right now. And, again, I don't know what the future holds, but, right now, just seeing the last 8 months and all the great things that have happened, and with the exception of losing my job, but just how it's enhanced my life, you do kind of say, why would I go back?
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody listening. We hope these were helpful. We hope you all have a really happy holidays, and we do encourage you to try to go alcohol free starting now. If you want to do dry January, that's fine too, but we do think it's much more beneficial to kind of start now, and don't delay it, and don't get all gross and nasty during the holidays so you have to detox. I think you'll feel much better, and again, have that momentum going into the new year. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great day.
See ya.